Hello. I think we're live. I got my tripod today. I promised that I would do a live Facebook feed when I no longer had to hold the phone from this kind of angle. Um, so this is my first non-handheld Facebook live. I don't know what you call it, intervention. And as I say, still experimenting with this, trying to work it out. But I thought today I would chat for a little bit about some of the stuff I've been writing and thinking about. And then, you can ask questions and I'll try to respond to some of them. Hi, Lauren, how's it going? There's no sound. Can anybody else hear me? Jeff can't hear anything. It's either my problem or it's your problem, Jeff. And I don't know, are you a betting man? Yeah, if you're a betting man, you've just lost. You owe me a drink because everybody else can hear me. I apologize. Maybe I don't apologize. Maybe it's better if you can't hear me. I don't know. But anyway, I have been writing again. I've spent, to be honest, the last few months, I've been traveling a lot, running around. I was back in Ireland for a while and I just haven't had time to write a book that is in my head. I actually wrote half of it about a year ago and then left it, and I'm returning to it now. So I've been doing a little bit of writing recently. I'm also prepping for the Omega course, which will be starting in a few weeks. And I'm going to Grand Rapids. Sorry, not Grand Rapids. Yes, Grand Rapids, that's right, Grand Rapids, for a couple of days. So got plenty on, but the writing is what I'm primarily concentrating on, and this Omega course. So I thought I would, for those of you who couldn't be bothered reading my blog, I know who you are. Even though they're very short, I know a lot of you don't even click through. In fact, who does blogs anymore? I've really got to find a different platform. I suppose this is what that platform is, because websites and blogs seem so much a thing of the past. But I still blog regularly. I like it as a medium. And I've been blogging a little bit about the material that I'm going to be using on the Omega course. So I'll talk a little bit about the first one, which is going to be the first week of the course, and it's on a religionless reading of faith. So very briefly, faith is often thought of as something that religious people embrace. It's a specific thing for a specific group of people. But Paul Tillich, the way he defines faith is not something that's specific to a certain group of religious people. It's not something that is for a particular group in the world with a particular belief. For Paul Tillich, faith is a human thing, and it's the experience of giving ultimate concern to something. And that's it. In a nutshell, faith is the word that describes an excessive attachment to something which you're prepared to live and die for. And an example of this, you can see it in great love affairs. You read about it in great Russian literature. It's about those people who will do anything for their country or their beloved or their children. But also at a very simple level, you see it in the child who refuses to eat their vegetables and who will sit in a chair and not move and refuse to eat the vegetables, even though it would be a lot simpler for them if they just ate the Brussels sprouts, right? I have a friend who, when he was young, he would refuse to eat his vegetables. And one time his parents were just exasperated and they told him that he would have to sit there until he ate them. And he sat there for hours and hours. He just would not do it. And eventually his parents broke. That's ultimate concern. That is an ultimate concern with not eating your vegetables. So Paul Tillich starts with this description. And then he says, another thing people think is that faith is a good thing. So one is we think it's for a particular group of people, and then secondly that faith is good. But he says, well, faith in and of itself can be diabolical, can be horrific. If you have an excessive concern for your nation and you say, whatever my nation does, right or wrong, whoever it bombs, whoever it tortures, my nation, and I will die for it. That is a form of ultimate concern. So it's a form of faith in a sense. But Paul Tillich would call it idolatrous faith or demonic faith, because what you're doing is you're giving ultimate concern to something that isn't ultimate, something that doesn't deserve ultimacy. Also, if you have a kid and no matter what the parents say or what teachers say, your kid is always right. If the teacher comes in and says, little Johnny burnt the school down, he was smoking a cigarette in the classroom, set fire to the room and then left. If the parents say, listen, this little Johnny would never do that, little Johnny's an angel. And anyway, little Johnny says that, first of all, he doesn't smoke. And second of all, he put the cigarette out before he even went into the class. And thirdly, he says that the class was already on fire when he sat down, right? Any excuse, all mutually contradictory, but any excuse to say little Johnny is an angel. That's a form of, having excessive attachment to your child, which is a good thing, but attaching to them in this kind of negative way. Now, the opposite isn't having a lack of attachment. This is what Paul Tillich's against, where you have no care and concern for the world. The opposite is, and if I can say this in a nutshell, and then I'll look at some of the comments and questions, and don't worry if they're completely not related to this. He says that faith is an excessive attachment to something, but it's an attachment to that part of it which is ultimate, which is infinite. So, for example, you could actually have a non-idolatrous form of patriotism where you say, I love my nation. I say I'm an American, and I go, I'm an American. And I believe that my country stands for democracy and freedom and justice. And so if my government stands against those principles, I will stand against it as a patriot, as someone who loves my country. So that's an excessive attachment again to the country, but you're attaching to these principles of democracy, liberation and freedom. And the thing about those is you can't grasp them. You can't actually nail down what freedom is, because every time you try to nail it down, it's not quite freedom. Or every time you try to say what democracy is, it's not quite democracy. These are infinite principles. These are principles that guide us, that inspire us, but that we can never lay claim to. And if we ever lay claim to them, we're missing the point. This is why, Buddhists will say if you meet the Buddhist on the road, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. In other words, the Buddha is not something that ever happens. The Buddha is not someone you meet. The Buddha is this which inspires you, which moves you on. So if ever you meet democracy on the street, if ever someone says this is democracy, it's not, because there's something about it that is a promise that causes us to act, but that we can never quite nail down. So again, an excessive attachment to your child would be that little Johnny's teacher says, little Johnny misbehaved, and you, out of love for your child, try to help him deal with the situation, try to help him be better. You are loving your child, but you're also loving the potential of your child. You're loving the opportunities. You're loving what that child can become. So you've got this excessive attachment to something that is transcendent in the immanent. So therefore you have faith, which is ultimate concern, and you have negative ultimate concern, which is where you have faith in something finite, something that is immanent, something that is mundane, nation, state, whatever. But then you have non-idolatrous faith, which is faith in a cause, in a person, but that attaches to the infinite, the transcendent in that which, causes us to, want to see, You know, like as I say, with the nation, we want to see democracy, we want to see freedom, we want to see equality. And we don't quite know what that looks like, but we know it doesn't look like what we see right now. And in our fidelity to our country, we fight for those very things. And that is a non-idolatrous faith. So this is kind of like a religionless reading of the word faith, which doesn't close it in to a particular tribal group, but sees it as a very human phenomenon. And fertilic theology is an exploration of faith. It's about exploring what that is, what idolatrous faith is, what non-idolatrous faith is, and it's an invitation into a greater form of positive non-idolatrous faith. So there you go. There's a few thoughts. If you want a lot more than that and you want to read some stuff about it, sign up to the course. Now let's have a look and see if anybody's asked any questions. Okay, everyone's saying they can hear me. That's good. Drinking game. It is Friday night. I mean, it's only early evening, so maybe we could. Oh, by the way, this is part of my research for the Omega course, is I have been drinking. I bought this little advent calendar. It's called Gin Vent last year, and it had one gin for every day of Advent. Now, I didn't keep up with it. It took me a couple of months to get through it, but I've got all these little bottles from the Gin Vent calendar, my religious practice, and I've been trying to work out what gins will go with each week of my Omega course. So I did this with Atheism for Lent. I paired every week with a gin, and I might even try a couple more gins tonight. Just, the work never stops, never stops. Let's see. I can hear you, but the accent is throwing me off. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm from Arizona. This is completely made up. I just do this accent to get away with what I get away with. If you heard me speak normally, you'd be surprised. I check your blog with every post. Ray, I don't know, are you looking for a star in your hymn book or something? But you get it, sir. You go to the top of the class reading my blog. You're one of the few who does. Let me see. What else? Come to Ohio. Absolutely. You have to invite me, and I will be there. Jace, hey Jace, how's it going? The friend from Australia says I'm going soft. Talk about the Eucharist. Oh yeah, that's what my whole last book was about. No, I will do that, I promise, Liam. Oh no, not Liam, sorry, Caleb. Caleb, I will talk about the Eucharist, but I'll do a separate one on that because it's a subject matter I'm very interested in. But if you've read The Divine Magician, you kind of know what I'm going to say. Adam, so is that to say that there is really no difference between religious and non-religious faith? The dynamics are the same. Yeah, for Paul Tillich, he is basically saying that faith is a state of being. It's a human reality, whether you describe yourself as religious or not religious. So for Paul Tillich, I've used this example before, but if he saw a debate online, on YouTube, where there was somebody defending Christianity because of all of the good it's done in the world, all of the people who have been fed and liberation theology and the good things in it, and someone else was attacking Christianity because of all the torture and the violence that has been done in the name of Christianity, Paul Tillich would say that both of them are showing a concern for the world, and both of them are showing a concern for people, a concern for life, and therefore they're both showing faith, and they're both in line with the prophets who don't care about religious, like Amos doesn't care about religious festivals but wants justice and righteousness. So yeah, Paul Tillich, but then in a sense Paul Tillich is saying that there is a religious dimension to life that means that, in a sense, strictly speaking, we're all kind of religious. Even if whatever we call ourselves, so if you define, religion the way Paul Tillich does, as this kind of like this faith in this ultimate concern. Now, as I say, I call it religionless Christianity, related to Bonhoeffer, and I think Paul Tillich is connected with that. So we'd have to define our terms a bit better. Are you putting together Pints and Parables in LA? Yes, I am, Susan. I just need to find a good place to do it. But I'm looking at doing one in Minnesota. If any of you are in Minnesota, hopefully next month. That's the idea. Where do you buy the Gin Vent calendar, Becky? I love, by the way, that the questions oscillate between kind of like, talk about the Eucharist to what's your favorite drink or whatever. It's brilliant. I love this. So Becky, where is it? You have to buy it from what's it called? It's a place in the UK, by the way, so it's really annoying. It's expensive because you have to get it shipped over. I actually bought it and then had it waiting for me in Ireland, so I didn't have to pay for the extra shipping. But it's called, I think, House of Malt. I think they're called House of Malt. And so if you type in Gin Vent, and if you remember me from previous videos, this is always the internet symbol. You type in Gin Vent, you'll find it. You can get whiskey ones as well. What is the main unifying factor between theism and atheism? Ooh, that's very good. Well, someone like Tillich wants to draw the distinction differently. So, for example, for us, especially in the US, there's a big distinction between theist and atheist. So you draw a line between theist and atheist. Paul Tillich wants to draw a line between those who are cared and concerned for transcendent values, for values that that of democracy, freedom, love of your neighbor, etc., and those who whose ultimate concern is for something finite and something non-ultimate. So he draws the line differently. And so what you have then is you have some people, you have atheists and theists on this side, and atheists and theists on this side. Now, Paul Tillich might want to say as well that sometimes you have, Levinas might say this, is you have on one side people who have care and concern for the world, and then you have people who, for whatever reason, are incredibly apathetic about the world. And that's, by the way, not a slight. Because I've been there and I will be there again. Lots of us are. It's depression, is the lack of desire. But for whatever reason, our desire and our care and concern for the world is not functioning. And as I say, there's people on all sides of that in terms of beliefs. So whenever you take someone like Paul Tillich, who is a theologian and a Christian theologian, he draws lines in ways that still create useful distinctions, but they're very different from the lines that we tend to draw. I mean, Tillich would probably be very happy with the idea that anyway, theism and atheism are very complicated in a sense of there's a bit of a theist and an atheist in us all. And it's hard to know what we are. Like sometimes we may think, oh, I totally believe in God. I totally believe in heaven or something like that. And then someone dies and you kind of are confronted with this idea of this horror inside yourself and pain, and you start to go, well, maybe did I really believe that? Or vice versa. That sometimes what we think we believe isn't often what we believe. So not only is there a little bit of atheism and theism and agnosticism in us all that we need to make peace with, but also those lines might not be the most appropriate ones to draw. By the way, my phone just said my storage is almost full, so I'm worried that something is going to happen and I'll disappear, but we'll see. Prayer and meditation. I will try and do a separate one on that, Kyle. I'll talk about, because I'd love to talk about those subjects. But I can't, I don't want to go off on another big subject. That's my plan, is actually to try and do each of these, start off and just do 10 minutes on a subject and then Q&A. Let's see, talk about worship. Okay, these are great. What I'm going to try and do, so we've got, someone wants me to talk about the Eucharist. Someone's asked me to talk about, prayer. There's Liam's saying, could you talk about worship? My brain isn't the best in terms of remembering things, but I will try to remember these, and maybe over the course of the next week or two, I can do all, we can discuss all of these. Can you define what you mean by the term religionless? Okay, that's a good last one to do. Because this course, the Omega course, the tagline is Adventures in Religionless Christianity. And that word is new to some people, and it can also be kind of confusing. Like, what does it mean to be religionless? And I think it was really Bonhoeffer as a theologian who made use of the term in Letters and Papers from prison, and he started to write about a religionless Christianity, which was a Christianity for him. It was a Christianity that wasn't that let go of a certain idea of God. It let go of this idea of God as this being above who makes sure everything works out well, who makes us feel good about ourselves. And basically, when we don't know the answer, we can just say God and then we can sleep well at night. Basically, God, as he called it, Deus Ex Machina, God is this object that helps us feel good psychologically, but doesn't necessarily provoke a change of heart and a different type of life. And he talked about religionless Christianity, which was a Christianity wholly given to the world in action, without this, this type of God kind of operating in the background. Now, religionless Christianity, there's lots of different types. What I do is a form of religionless Christianity. Pyrotheology is a form of that. Some of them, all of them, in a sense, are critiquing the dominant religious narrative and understanding of God that we find in the church. It's a different way of reading those things. So, for example, like what I just did tonight, in 10 minutes, we'll be doing it in a lot more detail, but was to give a religionless reading of faith. So a religious reading of faith might be, you believe certain doctrines and dogmas, even if you don't have enough evidence, there's revelation, these have been revealed to you and you trust that they're true. Or faith might be a belief in God that's not based on philosophy or anything. It's a belief that you give yourself to. But this religionless reading of faith, if you'll notice that it's not about God as an object that you have faith in. It's about saying that when you give yourself in love to the world, you're expressing God. It's like almost like the religious notion of God as an object that you love, and the religionless notion is when you love, that what you experience is being in the heart of God. So, I mean, that's me simplifying it a lot, but you would tend to say that in religion, God is an object that you love, and in religionless faith, love is the ultimate, and in the act of love itself, you know God, and by God, because God is not this object, it kind of starts to blur the lines between theism and atheism and all of that, because it's really saying that when you love, you're standing with the prophets. When you really love and act on